Hi guys, and welcome to the Rochdale vs Sunderland match review. Now, Sunderland drew last night 2-2 away from home against Rochdale in a game that was, to put it mildly, it was terrible in terms of performance, and it was insanely frustrating. I watched it actually whilst I was at work, and that's probably for the best, because if I had to make a review straight after that 90 minutes, it would have been a horrible watch. There would have been plenty of swearing, shouting. And I've calmed down somewhat now, but I'm still completely behind the narrative that we were terrible, because we really, really were. But we'll get into the game and to the lineups. We have Burge in goal. Sanderson made his debut alongside Bailey Wright and Flanagan as the back three. Now, as the wing backs, we had Conor McLaughlin on one side, Hume on the other. In the middle, we had Dobson and Power. And then we had Gooch on one side, Maguire on the other, and then Charlie White up top. So the first issue I had with that was the formation and the setup in the first place. Because what we have been used to is having a holding player and another two central midfielders that are more forward-thinking and ahead of the likes of Grant Ledbetter. I did say in the preview to this game, and I've said it across social media, that I don't think Grant Ledbetter, deserved to be dropped for this game. There'd been rumours before the game that Ledbetter and Scowen had an argument or a falling out with Parky. Whether that's true, I don't know. But it just goes to show, Ledbetter and Scowen were both dropped for this game. But getting back to the formation and the system, when we've played two in midfield, just a flat two in midfield with this system, it's never worked. Because our midfield down the middle, it's far too easy to walk through. And that was clear to see against Rochdale last night. They were just walking straight through us. There was no difficulty for Rochdale to walk straight through that midfield. Just a light breeze. It was so easy for them to get through us. It's far too defensive. Power and Dobson, which I'm going to get to on their individual performances later on, because I have a lot to say about those two. They're both defensive-minded players anyway. Power can offer a little bit when he is given that sort of more free role to get forward. But when he's anchored back alongside with likes of Dobson as well, both defensive-minded midfielders, then it becomes such a defensive formation. And what happens then is the likes of Gooch and Maguire, who are supposed to be second outlets, it forces them to come a lot deeper, far too deep, to pick up the ball and gain possession and get touches on the ball, which in turn means there's a huge, huge gap between our midfield and the final third, and then we've got an isolated Charlie White. So that two in the midfield, regardless of who plays there or not, it doesn't work. It's been tried and tested under Parky. It doesn't work. So why the hell he's gone for it again, I do not know, because it was terrible. So getting into the game, it was all Rochdale, particularly the first half. The whole thing was Rochdale. They looked a lot more comfortable in the ball. They were walking through our midfield, like I say. They were pinging crosses into the box. I'm not going to sit here and say that they were testing Burge, over and over again, or they were peppering our goal, because they weren't. But they looked massively the better side, particularly in the opening moments of the game. It was all Rochdale. It was all in our half, pinging balls into the box. And to be fair, the likes of Sanderson, who got mixed reviews across social media from Sunderland fans after the game. I think he was okay. There was some moments, like I say, early doors, he was tested quite a lot. He made a couple of decent interceptions. He was winning headers, and he was bossing the aerial threats. But there was also times where his decision-making wasn't quite there. Positionally, he was a bit off at times throughout the game. But all in all, he did okay. I'll say that. I'll say he did okay-ish, maybe. But our first sort of attack of the game, Gooch has it down the left-hand side, wriggles in and out as he does his man, puts it in the box, and there's Charlie White to nod it into the net, which it was a pretty simple header. Close range, but nevertheless, it's Charlie White. He's got another goal to his name, buzzing for him. But he needs those kind of deliveries to come in on a regular basis. And that's something that obviously he hasn't been getting. And, I can't blame just the service, because Charlie White, as we know, he hasn't been great for us, far from it. But now he is getting a bit of confidence. He does seem to be a confidence player. Keep giving him those balls, and with confidence, he'll start throwing himself at more balls, which he should be doing anyway, really. But with confidence, goals do come, is what I'm trying to say. But Rochdale, they come straight back, and the defending for this equaliser was shocking. It was absolutely shocking. Firstly, ball comes down the right-hand side for Rochdale, and Denver Hume gets... he don't get beaten necessarily, but he allows the cross to come in far too easily, and that's something that I've seen over the last handful of games. Denver, on the whole, I don't want to pinpoint him, but on the whole, I think his defensive work has improved. But recently, he's been allowing crosses to come in far too easily. The only thing that ups his game really at the minute is his attacking play. Because his attacking play is very, very good. It's his final ball that was terrible last night, which again we'll get into later on. But Denver does allow the ball to come in far too easily. Completely free man coming in late into the box and nods it into the back of the net to make it 1-1. Now, looking back at that footage, Dobson and Power, where the hell were you? Where the hell were they? They were terrible. What they should have done there is at least one of them should have picked up the man. I've pinpointed exactly where Power and Dobson are. Dobson has done the exact same thing, which is his fault for the second goal in my opinion, as well as allowing the cross to come in again, which we'll get onto the second goal. But the ball comes in, and I'm looking at Power, see where he is, and he's just lightly jogging back towards the box. He's not even looking at a Rochdale man. He's ball watching. I'm looking to see where Dobson is, and he's marking another man at the near post, which is already being marked by Sanderson. He's trying to get in front of him, and there's no need for it. There's absolutely no need for it. Sanderson's marking a lad who he towers over. But why does he need to be double marked, and then you're leaving a man who comes in late and nods it in free header? It's shocking. It's shite from Power and Dobson. Garbage. It's awful. But we do manage to get ourselves back in front. It's another, it's a shot from Gooch coming in from the left-hand side, and it's been deflected. It loops over, finds Bailey Wright, who nods it past the keeper. The keeper's kind of flapped on it, and it's skidded into the back of the net to make it 2-1. So we're quite fortunate there. But then Rochdale come back again, and like I say, it's another cross coming in from the right-hand side. Denver Hume's left. And again, he's let it come in far too easily. But this time, it's gone sort of towards the near post. I think if Dobson wasn't there, I think Sanderson would have dealt with it. But instead, Dobson insists on following whatever man Sanderson goes for. He clatters into Sanderson, batters him off the ball. He clatters him off the ball, leaving it for the Rochdale man to flick it back, lay off his man, and it's put in the net for a 2-2. It's shocking. Dobson and Power caused a huge downfall in that first half. The second half, it was only marginally better. Marginally, in the sense that a lot of the play did end up in Rochdale's half. And that was only really towards the sort of latter stages, but generally it was very, very scrappy. But don't get me started on the passing from Power and Dobson. Now, this is when I'm going to really let loose on Power and Dobson, because they were really that poor. They were terrible. Dobson should never be allowed to try and pass the ball more than 2 yards again. Don't get me wrong, if he needs to pass it backwards a couple of yards, he's your man. He's absolutely a man. But if he needs to pass the ball forwards and over 3 yards, forget it. I honestly thought we were on a wind-up. He was on a wind-up last night, because there were so many times where he picked up the ball, he'd look up, and he'd have so much space in front of him, no pressure on him at all, and he'd drill it straight at a Rochdale player who's 5-6 yards away from him. I'm thinking, what the hell are you doing? And it wasn't just like the once where it infuriated me. He literally did that exact same thing a good 8, 9, 10 times. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. He was taking the piss, that lad. He offered nothing. He was just constantly giving the ball away. The same with Power, not quite to the extent of Dobson, but Power was doing the exact same thing. What Power was doing almost, and I put this out on social media, put it out on Twitter, and it was really, really winding me up. When the back line, say Bailey Wright or anyone else across the back line had the ball, he'd come deep for it, scream for the ball, pick it up off them, give it them straight back. What's the point? You've screamed for the ball to give it them straight back. What's the point? The amount of times Power come deep for it to pick it up, a little bit like Ledbetter does, but then Ledbetter turns out, gets his head up, sees what's forward, and he'll play the correct pass. Power is so defensive. It was unreal. What's the point? Screaming for the ball, leaving your position empty. You'd think that he was going to come pick it up because he knows what he's doing. Look up and see what you can do. He didn't. His first thought is give it straight back. And that's what he was doing. He was coming back with no second thought, no thinking of turning out and seeing, not even a sideways pass. It was going straight back to the defence, and that was it. He offered nothing. There was nothing coming through Dobson or Power throughout the entirety of that game. So then, at half-time, I was screaming out for subs. I think a lot of Sunderland fans were. We could see so badly that Dobson was the massive weak link of the side. Nothing's coming through Power. Both of them are absolutely useless. So we need subs. We need subs quickly. We needed to change because nothing was happening. It took until the 73rd or 74th minute for Parkinson to even consider making a sub. What the hell's all that about? It was blatantly obvious. It was so clear to see what needed to be changed. Power or Dobson had to come off. Dobson for me, personally. But it took until the 74th minute, which in itself is a joke. So Parkinson's looking at that performance and thinking, I'm quite content with this bollocks up until this point. Is it only now that you think it's okay to make the sub, which it's becoming famous for? When subs and clear subs like that are quite, obvious to do, why is he taking so long to do it? It makes no sense. For example, if you look at Hull last night, they were losing by a goal to nil. They made 3 subs. All 3 subs come on. I don't know whether all of them got the goals, but they were all involved, and they won 3-1. Do you know what I mean? If you make those subs, be brave, then you can change the game and quickly. And the substitute he did make in the 74th minute, he's left Dobson and Power on the pitch, he's brought Maguire off, and brought Scowen on. Do you know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, I would have brought Scowen on myself, but what I would have done, I would have brought both Ledbetter and Scowen on to go back into that 3. Scowen can use his pace and energy going forward, and Power can actually push forward, and he can bugger off from hugging the back line all day, and he can actually push forward a bit, because he's more useful going forward, because there's no point in having him there. Otherwise, you would have Ledbetter doing the holding, so those who can bugger off and push up into the final third, Scowen and Power. And then I would have brought on maybe another striker to go upside alongside Charlie Wyke, or bring Charlie Wyke off, etc., and leave Maguire on. And then go that way with 2 strikers, and then just really push him, because that's when we're looking at our best. But instead, he brings off Chris Maguire and brings on Scowen, which he did bring a bit of energy, don't get me wrong, Scowen, and he single-handedly dragged us forward at times throughout the centre. But it was too little too late at that point, and then it took until nearly the 90th minute, or the sort of last 10 minutes, should I say, to bring Graham on, and he replaces Charlie Wyke, just a like for like. So we did, in all fairness, in the last sort of 10-15 minutes, make enough chances to win the game, and we should have done, really, despite the horrific performance on the whole. But there was just so many times where Hume got down to the byline and he was battering it straight out of play, and the crosses were terrible, either hitting the first man or going straight over the goal and for a goal kick, and that was infuriating. His crosses were garbage. They really were terrible, Hume. But there was one chance that fell for him. It was a good save originally for the keeper. Gooch keeps it in, pulls it back for Hume, point blank range, and maybe he should have gone with his right foot potentially, but he's just so left-footed and so one-footed that he's gone for his left foot. He's tried to kind of just pass it into the goal, and he's dragged it way wide. Power had an effort, for all his shortcomings in yesterday's game. It was a decent effort. It was pulled back to him. He struck it on the half volley, and it's just floated past the keeper. It's hit the underside of the bar. It hasn't gone in. It's come straight back out to Danny Graham. And there wasn't really enough power on the ball or enough pace on the ball for him to get too much on it. But he just tried to head it and loop it back across the opposite side of the goal whilst the keeper was on the floor. But there weren't enough power on it. Keepers managed to get up and catch it with relative ease. But that was it, guys. That was it. And it was terrible. It was really, really poor. It was poor tactics from Parky. And the thing that frustrates me the most is after the game, Parky said the second half we were very, very good, which is, it's comical, and also says that our passing was outstanding. The passing was the worst part of it. We couldn't string 2 passes together without losing it or hoofing it out of play or just giving it possession up incredibly easily. I don't know what he's saying, Parky. I think he's the kind of person who just gives false praise and he just wants yes men around him. That's what's frustrating me. I'm not jumping straight out into the Parky out bandwagon. I'm not, but although I'm getting there, I am getting there. When Parky first came, I was sort of immediately Parky out because it was shite, and then he was better, and then this season, for the majority, it's looked okay. But there's just so many questions that have to be asked after that game last night against Rochdale. One thing, sort of mildly off topic, is Haydn McGeady did do a podcast yesterday, which I watched large parts of it, not all of it, but large parts. And this does coincide with Parky, so just hear me out. Basically, of course, McGeady has been dropped down to the reserves, and he's training with them. We're not using him. There was massive rumours and reports that he was sort of guilty of bullying the youngsters, which, if that was the case, and that was my case originally when McGeady was dropped, if that was the case, then so be it. He shouldn't be around the squad at all, let alone drop him down to the youngsters if he's bullying youngsters. But either way, McGeady comes across in the podcast. I know people can dress themselves up easily on an interview, but this is a very laid-back podcast, and he definitely doesn't strike me as a person who is sort of capable of bullying youngsters. Banter, yes, of course, it is that kind of person, and we know this. But bullying, no. telling it how it is and saying it as it is, yes, he definitely will do. He's definitely that kind of person. He's a vocal person in the dressing room as well. And that's where I think the issue has actually been lying with Parky and McGeady. I think that Parky, regardless of results or performances, he will tell the players that they're great or they were unlucky. Even if it was shocking, he's going to beat around the bush and say you were great. Because going off last night's performance, as I've just mentioned, this is what I was kind of tying it in with, he said that we were very, very good in the second half. Were we fuck? We were shocking. We were utter shit. And he's saying we're very, very good. The passing was some of the worst I've seen in a Sunderland shirt. And he said it was outstanding. I was gobsmacked that these words were coming out of his mouth. Yet I know full well that Haydn McGeady, after that performance, would not have accepted that. Not necessarily going against the manager, but he would have gone in there. He wouldn't have agreed with that. He would have gone in there and he would have told the lads how they performed. Even if he performed badly himself, he would have said it. He would have told them as it is. And Parky wouldn't like that. Parky wants to make this dream bubble, this dream world where they're brilliant. They're all brilliant. Regardless of how shit they're being, tell them how brilliant they are. And you can see from the other players' post-match interviews, even Sanderson, who is obviously he's just heard this off Parkinson before this interview. He's probably just been told that he's fantastic. He's been brilliant, which, you know, he wasn't terrible by any stretch, I don't think, Sanderson, but he's been told that the team are great. Do you know what I mean? So he comes off, and when he's given his interview, he's saying, you know, we were really good in the second half with this, that, and the other. And I'm thinking, are these guys deluded? They're absolutely deluded, because this isn't the game that I was watching. So at the minute, we have a deluded manager who's making the players deluded. He's just surrounded by yes men, and he's making the players yes men as well. Dobson, for me, that was the worst individual performance from a Sunderland midfielder I have ever seen. With no exaggeration, hands down. It was that bad. So to sit there and tell me that some of the passing in the second half were outstanding, bollocks. Absolute bollocks. He needs to change the system again, look himself in the mirror and sort this shit out. Because what the hell he was doing last night against Rochdale, I have no idea, Parky. Absolutely no idea. But I've rambled enough. It's my birthday tomorrow, so happy birthday to me. Big smiles on my face, of course. But yeah, I can't give a man of the match. We were that poor yesterday, unfortunately. I can't give a man of the match. But yeah, it is my birthday tomorrow, so the reason I tell you that is this weekend, you know, I am busy doing birthday type stuff, so I won't be doing a video for a good few days now. But if you have somehow enjoyed this video, then let me know in the comments below and give us a like and all that kind of stuff, and let me know what you thought about the game. But for now, you take care and stay jamming.